the first thing that AI is really good for is getting rid of screens. And that comes back to this theory of kind of trying to enrich humanity a little bit. Is if we can ditch some of the glass, if we can get rid of some of the screens and some of the slightly kind of kooky technology that's really been the bedrock for everything, and use a lot more voice, or a lot more chat, a lot more conversation. If we use the data that we generate as human beings in a much more focused and targeted way to support people, then we can really do some amazing things.
So you're a smart business committed to innovation, to service and to modern marketing, and you're asking, what's next? Wondering how you can become even more innovative. My name is Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and this is the InnovaBuzz podcast, where we share all kinds of tips, advice and interview guests on all things innovation and leadership in modern marketing. Hi innovators, it's really great to be back with another episode. It's that time of the week again. I hope you've had an awesome week so far. I'm really excited today to have on the InnovaBuzz podcast as my guest, Pete Trainor, a best-selling author, a behavioural designer, technologist, an accidental polymath, a men's mental health campaigner and co-founder of Us AI in London. Pete talks all over the world on creative and social technologies, on data, on artificial intelligence, and on the physiological and psychological effects on their audience. Over the last 3 years, Pete's helped to pioneer an entirely new approach to AI-focused services, one that looks at self-evolving systems and minimum viable personality to help solve society and human issues. Now, I'm really looking forward to unpacking a lot more in this episode. Today's episode is brought to you by the Transformational Marketing Hub, where between now and January 15, we are offering a complimentary marketing health check for your business, complete with a report and action steps for your next 90 days. We'll assess your current health of your marketing specific to your 90-day plan and give you a report on the 3 key steps you can take to transform your marketing into an effective lead generation machine to serve the people you care about. Just visit innovabizz.co/MAS to get started. The complimentary offer is only available until the 15th of January, so get in quick. In our discussion, Pete talked to me about personalising AI, artificial intelligence, using the data gathered to evolve the algorithms to be able to solve very specific problems. He shared one example from his work in men's mental health. Pete told me about the challenges and responsibility that come with access to data, both at the level of those sharing their data and those collecting and using data. And we talked about how removing the screens from the process can lead to more human-like and personal interactions with artificial intelligence. Without further ado, then, let's fly into the hive and get the buzz from Pete Trainor. Hi, I'm your host Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm really excited to welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast today from London in the United Kingdom, Pete Trainor, who's a best-selling author, a behavioural designer, a technologist, an accidental polymath, as he describes it, a men's mental health campaigner and co-founder of Us AI in London. Welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast, Pete. It's a great privilege to have you as a guest.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Dave Burse, who was on episode 143 of the InnovaBuzz podcast, suggested we speak to Pete, so a big hello to Dave. So Pete talks all over the world on creative and social technologies, on data, on artificial intelligence, and also on the physiological and psychological effects on other audiences, on their audiences. Now, over many years, Pete's helped pioneer an entirely new approach to artificial intelligence-focused services, and one that looks at self-evolving systems and minimum viable personality systems. So I'm really excited to dig into that a little bit deeper, because I know you do a lot of work to help solve societal and human issues. So I'm really looking forward to unpacking that a lot more. Now, before we start, talking about all things technology and artificial intelligence. Let's find out a little bit more about your background. As a young child, what did you want to do when you grew up?
That's a great question. When I was growing up, I wanted to be Postman Pat, actually. I always thought Postman Pat was the best job in the world. Just driving around delivering the mail and being a generally happy man.
Yeah.
That didn't really happen. Actually, I had a kind of strange entry into this industry back in the 90s because I dropped out of school pretty much with no qualifications. I'm dyslexic, so the teachers, didn't really get very far with me at school. And actually, I was given a break by a man called Stuart in 1995 that realised that I had a bit of an aptitude for solving problems using computers. So he gave me a job, like an apprenticeship, if you like, in his computer-based training department in the UK. And that was really where it all began. Taught me how to code, taught me how to design. So I never made it into the postman's van. I ended up designing the interweb of stuff instead. So, I think my career is unashamedly an accident.
Yeah. Okay. So you basically grew up in the early days of the internet and through the technology, and your book, the Hippo Human Focused Digital, is kind of a reflection of 20 years of making digital stuff, as you call it.
Yeah. The book came out. It's been out 18 months now, and it was really, I guess, an apology for the sort of 20 years of mistakes we may have made with design and technology. We're at a frontier. We've been designing stuff for the last 20 years without any real understanding or comprehension sometimes of what we were doing. And so the book is quite a philosophical step back from the first 20 years of my career to say, you know what, we designed some stuff that's had some weird effects on people. Is there a better way of designing stuff that actually kind of enriches humanity rather than erodes it? Unpacked a few approaches that we take to kind of, I think, really be a bit more mindful of the human in the scenario rather than just focusing on the technology. So it was good fun. It was good fun writing a book. It was good fun, especially when you're dyslexic like me, doing something quite challenging like that. And also, I hope the people that have read it and have used it have really taken away just a couple of simple things, like, stop using the word user to refer to people. Is one of the things that really grinds me a little bit, because I think it dehumanizes people. You treat people like a number rather than, someone that's fragile or someone that's, delicate, or someone that has stuff going on outside of their technological world that we don't know about. And I think that's kind of the main crux of the book, actually, is to just be more human.
Yeah. Well, you make some really good points in the book, and then I certainly took away the idea of user, and it is one thing that from time to time I've noticed, and now it grates me even more when I see terms like that are a little dehumanizing. And one of the things that you also tackle in the book and in a lot of the other publications you have is the idea of technology as an addiction, so that we, as an industry, develop technology for people to use, and by doing so, by making them reliant on that technology, basically dumbing them down in some way. Yeah.
I mean, this observing the industry for the last 20 years, there's been two sides of it, really. And I'm talking about kind of the digital technology space, and marketing and advertising all kind of rolled into this odd little Venn diagram. That some businesses have genuinely set out to design technology platforms and services that are addictive. They use dark patterns. They use some fairly nefarious techniques to keep people coming back, like nudges and things like that. And I think a lot of businesses actually are not bad. They've just done that thing accidentally. So they've built, quite a lot of nudge and alerts and pokes that have created addiction and some slightly peculiar behaviors. And some people have done it deliberately, some people haven't. And I think, you can do some really, really amazing things with technology. You can, change the world for a small-ish, relatively amount of money these days. And I think we should celebrate that as well. But I do think there needs to be a bit more awareness of like the oddities,
Hmm.
and what it's done. And actually, there's a whole generation that's emerging now who won't know anything other than this.
That's right.
We're not.
Yeah.
We started my career chopping up brochures and sticking them up on the internet, and
Yeah.
and it was all fairly dumb and it was all fairly harmless, and it was all very novel as well. And now we have a generation that won't know anything other than that. So we're not digitizing behavior; we're living in a digital world, and we've got to be aware of the implications of that a little bit more, I think.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit then about what you do and why you do it.
Yeah. Okay. So the business in the UK, was founded a couple of years ago, and the last 18 months, what we've really been trying to do is use artificial intelligence as the basis for design. So the first thing that AI is really good for is getting rid of screens. And that comes back to this theory of kind of trying to enrich humanity a little bit. Is if we can ditch some of the glass, if we can get rid of some of the screens and some of the slightly kind of kooky technology that's really been the bedrock for everything, and use a lot more voice or a lot more chat, a lot more conversation. If we use the data that we generate as human beings in a much more focused and targeted way to support people, then we can really do some amazing things. And that's the basis of the business. So we do a lot of work with banks, we do a lot of work with charities, we do a huge amount of work at the moment with regulators and government bodies. We're looking at health as a space where we can try and do some tech for good work. And it's been an adventure. And the best thing about doing a business that's got some friction in it, that kind of grinds people a little bit, is seeing their reactions to things that they took for granted. So educating businesses that actually we have an opportunity to add optimizations and extra income to their bottom line whilst not having to take people for granted. And I think that's been really exciting.
Yeah, I think you talk in the book about self-evolving systems and solving human issues and societal issues, and you mentioned the men's health thing that I know you're very active in. So give us some more detail about that example, or if you want to go into some other examples.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in the UK at the moment, suicide is the biggest killer of men. Statistically speaking, when you kind of wrap in all the numbers together, it's a pretty grim situation. There are more men in prison than women by a factor of 20. There are more homeless men in the UK than there are females, and so on and so forth. And it's not about saying that ladies should not be supported as well, but it's about saying men actually statistically are pretty vulnerable when you crunch everything. And so one of the things that we worked out. Or one of the things that we did during some research a few years ago was worked out that actually, one of the big problems is that guys, especially when they're dealing with mental health issues or life issues, is they're not particularly good at. Sometimes they're not all men, but quite a lot of men aren't great at talking to other human beings. So technology plays a really interesting role in that conundrum, because we see a lot of these guys who find it difficult to talk to a human being will actually spend quite a lot of time on their computers. They'll spend quite a lot of time on their phones. They're kind of talking to technology, have a deeper relationship with technology. So we've been using AI to have conversations with men about some of their issues, which was really something that we could only start to do in the last few years as that AI, voice and text-based AI technology has matured. We can use it for coaching. We can use it for life support. We can help men and women, but predominantly at the moment, the focus group for us is men, as I mentioned. We can help them understand the impact of their behavior and what they could do that would possibly change their behavior. The other wonderful thing about the data that we generate and AI as a kind of optimization, number crunching tech, is that it can do predictions. So we've been doing a lot of work in predictive AI, stochastic modeling, to help men see kind of over the horizon where their behavior might get them. So it's been that's a big focus for the business. Is trying to use that tech for something potentially life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
Which I know all sounds a bit worthy, but it's not. We're really excited that we're entering this period of time now where we have the opportunity to do that stuff.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of challenges around people issues and so on that I think technology can really contribute to. And I was watching something the other day about insulin and type 1 diabetes, where new technology had been developed that could be life-changing for type 1 diabetics, and that's pretty amazing as well. So I think there's opportunities there in all kinds of areas, and certainly men's health and men's suicide, I think, is a big problem worldwide, not just in the UK.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's one kind of underlying principle behind all of this stuff, and that's health, medicine, banking, mental health, or whatever it is. We now have the tech that can give people help before they know they need it, which can be quite creepy as a concept. It's quite a kind of awkward ethical space as well. But being able to give people help before they know they need it can really stem the flow of quite a lot of negative things early. So early intervention for debt, early intervention for diabetes, early intervention for cardiac problems is I think truly a gift that could be transformative in so many different ways.
Yeah. So one of the things you talk about is personalizing interactions, and we know that a lot of the online communication tools are, use automation, and as a result, they're kind of, they might use a first name, but it's kind of the mass email thing or the chatbots that just reach out, do a cold reach out and promote things. So I know you've got things happening that are developing the AI part of that to personalize those interactions. So what kind of things do you have going there?
Yeah, we've got a suite of tools that we've developed as a business that we're enriching now with clients, and it takes that personalization to a slightly deeper level. So again, back to this idea that we spend approximately 177 minutes glued to our mobile phones every day at the moment. It's a lot of time spent generating footprints. I think we check our phones, I think it's like an average of 87 times a day or something really crazy. Underneath all of that behavior is a data footprint. It's something that we're leaving behind. Every phone is generating a huge amount of psychometric information. And what we're trying to do is look at how we can use that behavior that exists to take that level of personalization down a notch. So how do you use that information to be to turn technology into kind of more of a buddy than a marketing push? So it would be, the theory being, it would be really nice if our tech didn't just kind of say good morning to us, but it gave us a level of support for our day that kind of sets things up really, really nicely. Hey Pete, how are you doing today? The weather's going to be this. By the way, if you go and do what your calendar says you're going to do, you're going to have like very little time to yourself. So just kind of take time out. Something that's much more supportive, and that's the level of personalization that we're looking at. And we can apply that to everything from a business to straight up assistance for human beings. And the platform work that we've been doing is really looking at what that personalization means, what it could be. And it's exciting. It's really exciting. Ethically, it's a really interesting space. But I think personalization could start to get really, really, really fascinating in the next 18 months or so as these machines start to develop.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. And how do you go with the data protection regulations?
Yeah, so we're doing something. Well, we do multiple. We get around that in multiple ways. That a lot of the services that we've been developing, people can just stay at quite a high level. They can not give away their data. They can just use it, some of the tech, the chat and voice-based stuff, just as a kind of an FAQ on steroids, if they like. But anything that goes lower than that, anything that people opt into, is very, very, we're trying to be very, very mindful of that personal information. So we're looking at technology that is what we classify as on the edge. So when we're talking about mobile phones, on the edge tech are effectively algorithms that run locally on a device and know which data to aggregate and pass up to the cloud. That's kind of macro herd trends, and what is personal and therefore should be left on the device for the individual, and is never kind of shared, or is never pushed up into a corpus, an AI brain that is potentially so personal that you would break regulations, but also, just there are some things that we shouldn't know about people, but that information is still available. So that's actually a really, that question and this space is a big focus of the business at the moment, with the regulators as well, trying to work out what is too much and what is too little for this to be viable. Really, really fascinating. I mean, even government recently talking about some of this stuff, which is just insane for someone like me to even be having those conversations. But
yeah, it's an interesting space to be in. It's quite an exciting space from the opportunities there, but it is, can be fraught with danger, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, we're dealing with vulnerable people in a lot of these scenarios, and being respectful of that is, it's a pillar of the business. It's a pillar I think we should have in all technology businesses. I think the other thing that is worth just touching on, and one of the things that I think I talk about quite liberally at the moment as a provocation, is we as society globally, especially in the West, give this data away to big social media providers and to Google and to our energy companies and so on and so forth, fairly liberally every day, without much comprehension that you're doing it a lot of the time. You ask my mum what data is, and she thinks it's that thing she spends £20 a month on buying from Vodafone or whoever it is. She doesn't understand that data is that soul, that kind of other side of you that you generate every time you click on a button, or every page you visit, or every purchase that you make. So there's I think beyond the regulations of what we can and can't collect, there's an education piece that needs to happen around this as well, to stop people just giving it away liberally. They're doing that anyway. So us trying to jump into the middle of that conversation and use that data that's generated for something more worthwhile potentially, but also educate people that they're doing it anyway, and all that data is being used for is selling you more shiny things. A lot of the time I think that's a really important conversation to have.
Yeah, that's right. It's sometimes I'm surprised how easily people will give away information like that through social media mainly, without really understanding, and people that generally are very wary, very private, or they don't want to share a lot of personal information about themselves, and yet when it comes to social media, they're quite cavalier about what they put out there.
Yeah, I mean, I joke about it at home with Mrs. T, but we're going to have the data conversation with the kids before the birds and the bees conversation. They're only 5 and 9, but they're going to need to be really savvy in this new world that they're emerging into, the dataization of everything that they do.
Of course, another kind of problem that's come up that didn't exist before we had this technology, and that is the cyberbullying that happens, and a lot of that is with young people, isn't it?
Yeah. And when you in the introduction, you talk about the kind of psychological effects of digital. One of the big psychological effects is anonymity. So you give people, you give human beings, platforms with big audiences, but relative anonymity. It creates some quite odd behavior. It almost allows some people to bully, to stalk, to troll, and that stuff I find quite upsetting. It's quite it's quite telling about certain types of person, that they can use this technology for those kind of gains. But we're building it, and we gave it to them. It's Prometheus giving the fire to the people. It's going to happen. It's going to be yins and yangs. So I think educating and also trying to use technology to stop some of that behavior, or at least make those people that do those things aware of the impact. Because I think sometimes they feel, because it's digital, that it's a victimless
that's right,
crime, and it's no, these are extensions of people's worlds now, and what you're doing is effectively throwing stones at them. So it's a concern. It is a concern.
I was quite startled with some of the data that you had in the book around the number of people that openly admitted to having alter egos when they're online, and the kind of behaviours that they displayed. And I kind of looked at the data and I thought, well, if people are owning up to that, there's probably a whole lot of people that may feel a level of shame and wouldn't own up to that. So I wonder what the real number
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. It's huge. The data that you're referring to there from the book, it was something I talked about in my TED talk. Everyone thought I was a bit mad, but it was about the biological effects of dating apps. And we'd done some really interesting research into, swiping on dating apps and how, some people had effectively admitted that they were portraying a different version of themselves. And actually, if you think about it quite kind of logically as a human being, if you aren't confident, or you've never been great at going up to men or ladies in bars and chatting them up or whatever, having a profile online where you can effectively put whatever you want to make yourself the best version of yourself is actually, of course, people are going to do that. And those characters what we found out was people kind of seem to emerge as this strange online character version of themselves, to try and maximize the opportunity within these spaces. And then those, that psychological alter ego that people create, then, just gets bigger and bigger, and people start to believe that it's real, and so on and so forth. And if you look at social media and the effect that has on this kind of alter ego of people as well, is it's all about followers and likes, and the Kardashians, and who's got the shiniest filters on their photos. And of course, people are going to want to aspire to be that. So the kind of the danger that we were talking about, the danger that I wrote about in the book, was around that concept of the other you. And again, just asking people simple question of, what would you want that other you to be? Or who do you want that other you to be? What do you want that other you to achieve? And again, it's not about judging anybody. It's all cool. Digital has given quite a lot of people the space to be, in a lot of ways, a better version of themselves. And that's a positive thing sometimes. But I think you have to remind people that can also be quite negative.
Yeah. Well, in some ways, it's reflecting on what impact are you having on the world around you and on other people, which I think, I'll say something that may be controversial in some quarters here, but I think, I don't know much about the Kardashians, but to me, that and this whole idea of reality TV is an ego trip for people that perhaps, don't have a life otherwise. And I'm not really sure there's much of a contribution there. So,
well, it's weird, isn't it? Like, a lot of this stuff started. A lot of this stuff. Go on.
Yeah, I'm just thinking perhaps, technology is great from the point of view of here we are in, completely different hemispheres of the world, and we just get online and have a chat and conversation, and we can record it and share that conversation with other people. So it's fantastic from that point of view. But it also makes it a lot easier to do other things like, have transformed this idea of the reality TV concept much easier into the online space and provide a lot of junk on there that doesn't add value to anybody.
Yeah. I think a lot. I think if I look back over the last 20 years, some of these reality TV programs probably really started social media as a concept, because they, now everybody lives in a weird kind of idea of reality TV, like their own reality TV. We're all in the Truman Show in some strange shape or form. And
that's right.
Now we don't have to apply to be on a TV show. We just go online and we're in a sort of odd version of it. I find it really strange, though, that, there's 7 billion people walking around on this planet. We're more connected than ever. Like you just said about us just jumping on and having this conversation. Like, no one lives on a desert island anymore, but we have this kind of epidemic of loneliness, which I find kind of strange, where you go, well, we've created this thing, we've connected everybody up to it, and yet people, a lot of people still feel lonely. It's a very, very odd situation. But, you got to also look at the positives of it.
Yeah. But I think it comes back to one of the things you say in terms of, coming back to the idea of referring to people as users. And you talk about personas, which, I do a lot of work with marketing with personas, but we do it at a very deep level. So we actually really turn it into a person. And you talk about it being foolish to kind of characterize a bunch of individuals as one kind of category, and boil things down to something that simple. Whereas we're all individuals.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, and maybe that's part of that loneliness, because we kind of categorize everything and we miss the mark when we're talking to people online because we're trying to fit them in some box.
Yeah, all of that amuses me greatly, especially when I take a look back over my shoulder and go, we based quite a lot of technology on the pen portrait. That was funny, wasn't it? Because you go, we spent a lot of time planning the user journey or crafting the customer journey, when in reality every human being is on a journey we know nothing about. You don't know anything outside of the echo chamber of online that's been planned around a piece of paper with a picture of Dave who reads the certain type of newspaper and eats a certain type of food. Like, we know nothing about you, and yet it's all based on that. And I think that's where actually the data that we generate and the AI that's emerging can potentially make that stuff more real, or at least base it on reality. Everybody as an individual rather than groups of us in a category. So that really is and could be transformative for the way that we communicate with people, both from a brand perspective and a human to human perspective. It's going to be really exciting. But yeah, it does make me laugh, the idea of the pen portrait, the humble persona. Got that wrong, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of it's done a bit of a circle, actually. I think people are looking at it in a different light. I certainly encourage people to look at it in a different light now, and it is important to know things about your audience when you're talking to them, but to kind of categorize them and box them up. And a lot of those persona things I thought were really superficial also. Kind of like, okay, it's a male or female, it's 35 years old, and sort of, okay, well, but what does that tell you about the person?
Yeah, exactly. What makes them tick, not click. Everything has been based on what makes someone click, and actually, what makes someone tick is probably, where technology needs to go. I think at the moment as well, I go and do university lectures and things, and every time I step into a university and I look at a room full of the young emerging faces, you go like, we got this so wrong. Like, you don't align yourself to a party or a gender or an agenda or a brand, or it's so granular now, and so complicated that trying to classify and categorize anybody is a fool's game. And it's really exciting. It's really exciting that society is emerging as being less he, she, and age specific, and much more psychology specific. No idea where it's all going to go, but it's going to be fun. I know that.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly going to be interesting to see where, what comes out of the new artificial intelligence and what we can learn there. I think the self-learning artificial intelligence, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
have it actually develop its own intelligence and customize responses based on what the machine is actually learning from data.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, generative AI as a space, as you talk about emerging, is really, really fascinating. I mean, it's, again, the ethics. We could talk about ethics for hours. We should probably try and stay off the ethics. Assume that it's all going to be good, naively. But that space is really fascinating. You put a little bit in, and then over time, using machine learning, deep learning, you see machines that are unable to do more than humanly possible, and give answers that you weren't expecting. I think the implications of that are really, really exciting. I think it's tempting to believe that computers will be neutral and objective, but at the end of the day, algorithms are just opinions embedded in mathematics.
Yeah, that's right.
So the people that create those algorithms are imparting some of themselves into those machines as well. But once those machines move past what has been put into them and start to kind of form their own opinions and create their own hypotheses and their own junctions, then we can see some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating. I did it was a behavioural analysis questionnaire the other day that was actually based on a mathematical algorithm, and it came back with a whole range of outputs. It was pretty well, and it wasn't based on answers to questions. It was based on ranking a set of observations. So it kind of then worked out the mathematical back end and gave back a fairly personalised response. And I think that that is kind of an example of something fairly simple that has the potential to kind of evolve into that artificial intelligence thing. And I wonder if that could be expanded to tackle some things like beliefs that we might have unconsciously that, for example, it might be a limiting belief that gets in the way of doing something, but it's an unconscious belief. And to have applications that can analyze that, because they're going to be completely subjective, unemotional.
Yeah, and that's an awesome point as well. I think that the media paints this picture of AI being kind of Sophia the robot, the kind of human machine thing. It's really not. They're just bits of code that do exactly what you've just said. That I don't buy into this idea of emotional machines. I just don't think it's ones and zeros. It's binary, and that unemotional machine intelligence is actually where the real benefit lies. Having a completely objective response to things that's not based on factors that are hormonal is really, 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 really useful. It's having the kind of metaphorical devil and angel on your shoulder all the time, and being able to reach into your pocket or tap an earpiece in your ear and say, is this right? Is this wrong? Should I be going here? Should I be doing this? What would you do in this situation? And having that kind of non-emotional binary answer, I think it's going to be really, really, really exciting for people.
Yeah, fascinating. All right. Well, this has been absolutely fascinating, and as you say, we can talk for hours on end about the topic in more detail. And if we get onto ethics, that could be days.
Yeah, it's true.
But I'm cognizant of your time, so I'd like to move on to the innovation round and get your thoughts. It's designed to help our audience. They're primarily innovators and leaders in their field, and we want to get some tips from your experience with 5 questions that I've got, and hopefully some really insightful answers that will inspire the audience to go away and do something awesome today.
Okay, I hope so.
Yeah. So first one is, what's the number one thing anyone needs to do to be more innovative?
That was my favourite question. I think just stepping away from a comfort zone. Innovation happens at the fringes. That's something that I've always believed in. If you look at every innovation, every invention really, that's really changed the world, positively and negatively, they don't seem to come from people that have just looked at what's come before and then kind of redesigned a slightly different version of that is people that have stepped away and said, let's design the best version of something new. Not the next version of something that exists. And you can only really do that, in my opinion, when you come at it from the fringes. So you look at everything kind of upside down. So getting out of comfort zones is my advice on how to be more innovative.
Okay, that's great advice. Yeah, and I like the idea of turning it upside down or inside out. Might be another way to get outside that comfort zone and look in.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What's the best thing you've done to develop new ideas?
Step outside my comfort zone was the first thing I did. Setting up a business and doing it, putting your colours to the mask and saying, we're going to set up a business, we're going to do it our way, we're going to really follow this through, was risky. It was uncomfortable. It was something that lots of people, advised me not to do. The conventional wisdom says you're not supposed to do this. That was really the most innovative thing I did, and continue to do. I think is just do it my way with a lot of heart on my sleeve. And I would encourage everybody to do that as well, because that's where you can really start to do innovation without someone's permission other than your own.
Yeah.
So I think that's the most innovative thing I did was leave leave the rat race and just do something that I believed in.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really important point there, that, doing something that you really believe in, and that kind of gives you a powerful motivator to push ahead in spite of people saying that that's not what you're supposed to do or that's never going to work.
Yeah. And you got to make a ton of mistakes as well. And that's the other thing that people generally, we're fight or flight animals. We don't do things that scare us, biologically. So to do that is innovative. To do something scary is innovative. To do something that is not comfortable to your gut is innovative. So you've got to do it.
Yeah. All right. Great advice. What's your favorite tool or system for improving your own productivity and allowing you to kind of step out of that comfort zone?
Yeah, well, my favourite tool at the moment, it's the best piece of AI on the planet, maybe, is an application called Grammarly, which basically, Grammarly's great because it makes dyslexic people sound clever, and it's like my personal editor assistant. I'm being genuine here. It's great. The productivity tools are really helping people, I think, find the time and the space to be innovative. So if you take away some of the mundane administrative things that traditionally we've spent lots of time crunching and doing, then that gives you time back to think, it gives you time back to dream, it gives you time back to do what people are really good at, which is being creative and being strategic. So yeah, I have a small suite of productivity tools that just help me day to day. Grammarly being my favourite one at the moment.
All right, great. Yeah, I use it from time to time. It is quite good. All right, what's the best way to keep a project or a client on track?
I did think about this one quite at length. I think just honesty. It's a tricky one, this, because again, the kind of work that we do and the kind of space that we're in is uncomfortable for everybody that comes on this journey with us sometimes, and it's new and it's emerging. I think just keeping clients on track are about having conversations. I've been trying to take clients out for walks rather than sitting in meeting rooms. And again, that's kind of awkward for them sometimes, because you rock up at their business and you say, right, you're paying us this much money to do what we're trying to solve this problem that you have. And traditionally, the framework for doing that is, you go away, you come up with a plan, you go back, you sit in a meeting, you talk through the plan, you bring the slides. It's like the business 101 that you do. And so trying to take some of our clients out of that comfort zone and just say, should we just go for a walk and have a chat about what's going on or how we're feeling on all of this stuff, and the binary stuff will take care of itself a little bit. It is one of the things that we want to do more of, and we're trying to do with our clients to keep things on track. And I think transparency has to be transparent, because otherwise, there's no trust. And if you don't have trust, then you're not going to get innovative things done. That's my advice for trying to keep things on track.
Okay. Well, communications is something that many guests bring up on that, but I don't think I've had someone suggest taking clients on a walk, so that's a new one. All right. What's the number one thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves?
Be authentic. And I mean that truly as well. I think, differentiation, we're all different. And everything that we spoke about today has been about, my philosophy of just being more human. I think we're all different. We're all wonderful. We're all brilliant. I think trying to be a clone of someone that you admire or someone that you look up to is a bit of a fool's errand. I think to be different, you just have to be yourself and stand true to the things that you believe in. And that's a really good differentiator. And I find myself, seemingly surrounded at the moment by people like Dave that you spoke to, who are brilliantly authentic. And there's a reason that these characters are different and differentiated, because they are themselves. And they're cultivating the best version of themselves. And I admire that. And I think that's great. And that's how you're going to be different. It's just to be the unique version of you, not a clone of something else.
Yeah, that's great advice. And a lot of our guests have said versions of that. I think, there's a fine line between modeling some behavior from somebody, because we all do that from time to time when we want to improve or learn something. And the other side of that line, of course, is being a clone, as you said. And that's where it gets. I actually find it creepy sometimes when I see somebody and they're trying to be a clone of so and so.
Yeah, I think the creepiest people on the internet are these kind of evangelistic life coach type people who stand on stages in front of very large audiences saying, "This is how you're going to be the best version of you." And it's like, what you're actually doing, mate, is just imparting your ego on other people, and they're all going away and going, "I'm going to be another version of that guy or that lady." So, and it's almost like you're actually not achieving anything, because you're not helping people. You're just helping them be a version of you. It's just really weird. Authenticity.
Yeah. I get repulsed by those people, so they don't work on me.
Yeah, exactly. It's worked for religion for thousands and thousands of years, hasn't it?
That's true. All right. So this has been absolutely fabulous, Pete. I really enjoyed this. Where can people reach out and connect with you and say thank you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody should just come stalk me online and say hello from all over the world. I'm quite an open chappy, as you can tell. So come and say hello. Yeah.
All right. We'll post links to the Us AI. I was going to say US, but it's Us AI, isn't it?
We have a branding problem there. No, everyone thinks we're from America.
Yeah.
They investigate us as in people, but there you go.
All right. So what's the number one piece of advice you'd give to any business owner who wants to be a leader in innovation and in their field?
Number one piece of advice, it kind of goes back to the thing that we were just talking about, actually. It's just, I think, be respectful. Same thing I'd say to my children, be kind. I don't think you need to be mean to be successful. I think I've got a lot of business leaders that feel like, who act like sort of passive aggressive bullies, which again, just be kind, be nice, treat everybody as a human and not a member of staff or a sales figure. Be kind. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that are hugely successful that are widely admired are probably, kind and take the time of day for everybody, even though they're likely very busy people.
Yeah. Having time for people is something I've always taken time to do. Sometimes to the detriment of my reputation at businesses that I've worked at, I will admit. I've had a number of jobs there, the friction between me and my line manager has been, you're spending too much time with the team and not enough time delivering for the clients and things like that. Just going, well, actually, if you look at it in slightly reverse angle, what I'm actually doing is cultivating a good culture with a team of people who are all human beings, and that will bring the best out of them and therefore the best out in the work. So I think taking time out and just being kind to people is a good strategy.
All right. So finally then, who would you like me to interview on a future InnovaBuzz podcast, and why?
Good question. There's a lady who I've become very fond of called Gela Boscovich. Gela is a remarkable human being. We've spent a bit of time on the circuit with each other over the last 18 months. She's femtech and kind of fintech guru. And she probably won't like me using the word guru, but she's a real force of nature. She's incredibly erudite and just a wonderful, wonderful person with views. Every time I spend time with Gela, I come away and I've learned something new, and I love people like that. So,
all right.
Gela.
Well, we might get an introduction from you, but if you're listening to this, Gela, look out for an introduction from us to the InnovaBuzz podcast, courtesy of Pete Trainor. So thanks so much, Pete, for sharing your time and your insights with us today. I've really enjoyed this immensely. It's been a wonderful kind of insight into your philosophy and the kind of whole area of artificial intelligence and how we can use that to, be more human in using technology and also doing good with technology. So it's been fabulous. Thanks a lot.
That's been my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, I wish you the best for the future, and let's keep in touch.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I hope you enjoyed that insightful and thought-provoking conversation with Pete. We need more people like him that genuinely care about the people who they serve with their products and solutions. It's really encapsulated well in his philosophy of don't do things better, do better things. I'd love to know what you took away from Pete's episode. Leave a comment below the blog post, which can be found at innovabiz.co/Pete Trainor. That is PETETRAINOR. All lowercase, all one word, innovabiz.co/Pete Trainor. You'll also find contact information for getting in touch with Pete there, as well as links to the Us AI website and the book Hippo Human Focus Digital. Pete suggested I interview Gela Boscovich, founder of Femtech Global, on a future InnovaBuzz podcast. So Gela, keep an eye on your inbox for an invitation from us to the InnovaBuzz podcast, courtesy of Pete Trainor. Remember to visit innovabiz.co/MAS to access the complimentary marketing health check for your business. And this offer is only complimentary until the 15th of January. So go to innovabiz.co/MAS now. Don't delay. Do it now. You know you want to. Stay connected. Head on over to iTunes or Stitcher or Pocket Casts and subscribe to the InnovaBuzz podcast so you make sure you'll never miss another episode. We'd also love you to leave us a review because what you think matters. Take some of the ideas you've heard today and apply them in your business. Any thoughts, ideas, suggestions or questions, share them in the comments below the blog post. And remember, if you want to get better marketing results than you ever have, join our fantastic LinkedIn community at the Transformational Marketing Academy. All you have to do is go to innovabiz.co/TMAC. It's free to join. Hope to see you there soon. Until next time, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBiz. Remember to be awesome and keep innovating.